DodgerHeads live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined once again tonight by Anthony Witrado. Anthony, the Freeway Series has officially ended. There's a simulated game that none of us will see or hear about tomorrow, and then Major League Baseball domestic opening day on Thursday. How are we feeling?
I'm excited. Spring training typically doesn't do it for me. It doesn't get the juices going. Even like the start of it, it's just like I think that's me being jaded, like having covered several of them. And so it just doesn't get it flowing for me. But opening day, and Japan was fun. I was excited for that. But I sent out a tweet today when the lineups were posted, and I was like, all right, this feels real now. Like,
yeah, it's real. Skubal versus Snell is coming at you 4 p.m. on Thursday, whether you're ready for it or not. Lots to talk about tonight. We're going to start, of course, with Mookie Betts here in just a moment. But I also want to talk about Tyler Glasnow, Dustin May, a couple guys who have looked great in their final tune-ups of the spring. And then, of course, we will talk about the White House and all of the stuff surrounding that. And we're going to do our best to do so in a apolitical way, while mentioning what is in front of us and what's in the news. But let's start with something we can all agree on, Anthony. Mookie Betts is back. He took grounders, went through warm-ups today. He was back in the lineup, got 3 at-bats. Yes, he looks thin, but he's back, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. You wonder how much that is going to impact him. Look, I mean, if the actual diagnosis is like, a stomach bug, stomach flu, that seems
norovirus is what the LA Times is reporting it likely to have been.
Yeah, which is that.
That
seems abnormally extended for all that he said he was going through. So I say that to ask the question: how long until he can put that weight back on? How long? Yeah. Like, I'm curious about how he feels physically. Like, maybe he's well and all of that, but like, does he feel strong? Does he, you know what I mean? Like all of that kind of stuff. And so, curious. I'm glad he's back there. It was a great sign that he's in the lineup. And I'll tell you what, 157 pounds of Mookie Betts is better than 99% of people on this planet playing baseball. So I'm with it.
Yeah, Fabian Ardaya posted on The Athletic literally like minutes before we went on and had some quotes from Mookie Betts, one of which was he feels strong. Like, he doesn't feel weak. He knows he's lost weight, but he's not really concerned about it. And he basically said, everything about me felt fine, except for I couldn't keep food down. So he was still working out, that kind of thing. So these are his words. He says he's still strong. He still says he's fit. Apparently what happened, again, the LA Times saying the norovirus, which I guess is just the fancy way of saying the stomach flu. But doctors started him on a new medication. He has now been able to hold food down for the last 2 days. Anthony, I'm convinced that somebody watched our show, called up Mookie Betts and said, have you tried Zofran? Because I hear this anti-nausea medication is great. I mean, they try a new medication. He keeps food down. It's been 2 days, Anthony. I'm connecting the dots here. I think DodgerHeads saves Mookie Betts' 2025 season.
I mean, you might be the reason why they go back to back. I mean, let's just put it all out there. That's what we're all thinking.
You said it, not me, but I appreciate that. Who knows? But yes, his wife also, by the way, took to Instagram to say, thanks everyone for checking in and sending your prayers. Marcus is doing well and ready to get back. And then again, sure enough, working out on the field before the game, back in the lineup. And again, Fabian Ardaya, quotes from Mookie Betts saying he will be in the lineup on opening day. Dave Roberts, a little less committal. He basically said, well, Mookie's convinced he will be ready in the lineup for opening day. Dave says he's day-to-day is how he'd clarify it. Wanted to see how tonight went. Wants to see how a simulated game that they'll play tomorrow goes, and then go from there. But, I mean, if Mookie Betts played tonight, says he feels good, is now keeping food down, 99% chance he's in the lineup on Thursday, Anthony?
I would say so. I would think that unless he came out of the game complaining of something, that, as long as he doesn't step on a rake or something like that between now and opening day, I'm assuming that he's in the lineup. Because I think that if there were any doubts at all, or even any like if-then scenarios, why play him tonight?
Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't make any sense. So I think they were saying, as long as he makes it through tonight, We're confident in going with him. Of course, Dave, it's like when a guy's going to go on the IL, like
Yeah.
everyone dances around it until the actual minute because you never know, right? Like the guy that you're bringing up, his flight might get delayed or he might step on a rake. Like all of those kinds, they're so concerned. I mean, for a good reason. But so they're going to wait until the last possible minute to confirm. But yeah, I'm going with Mookie. If Mookie says he's ready to go, I believe him.
Yeah, made a play at shortstop today for all those concerned about his defensive ability and the lack of reps from the last couple of weeks of getting grounders at shortstop. He looked okay tonight. Fielded a pop-up as well, which I don't think he needs a ton of practice to go catch fly balls. I think he's kind of just in his DNA at this point. But again, the good news for the Dodgers, Mookie Betts working out before the game tonight, the final night of spring training, the final night of the Freeway Series, as the Dodgers gear up for Thursday's domestic home opener. Speaking of the Freeway Series, both tonight and last night, Anthony featured a couple of Dodgers pitchers who there's no doubt about the stuff, the talent, the ceiling of these two guys. The question is health. But right now, both Tyler Glasnow and Dustin May are healthy. And the Angels kind of wish they weren't, because Tyler Glasnow a couple of nights ago, 5 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. He now has 19 strikeouts in 11 innings this spring. He got 15 whiffs against the Angels. Yes, it's the Angels, but we are getting to the point where this is borderline real stuff, because real teams are playing for the first 5 innings when Glasnow's out there. But 5 innings, 9 strikeouts for Glasnow. Maybe he's offended that we're talking so much about Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I don't know, but it was a nice reminder that on his best day, Tyler Glasnow very well might be the best pitcher the Dodgers have.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I totally can buy, I'm buying on that. We were talking, up until the point where like the performance slipped and you realized something wasn't right last year. Like we were saying, they traded for and extended a legitimate ace type of guy.
Yeah.
Like, I remember having those conversations on this show and talking about how like, this is the kind of guy that you give the ball to when, you've lost 3 in a row or something like that. Like he's a stopper and when he's at his best. And so, yeah, if he's feeling good, there's never been a question about the stuff. It's just, physically, how is he feeling? If he's feeling good right now, this looks like the Tyler Glasnow that was the risk the Dodgers took, right? They said, that's the guy that we think we can keep healthy. And if so, that extension we gave him is going to end up being a bargain because he's got Cy Young kind of talent.
Totally. It's like Blake Snell in many ways. I mean, Blake Snell has basically had 2 full seasons where he was healthy the entirety of the season, and he won the Cy Young in both of them. So if you can get him upright and keep him upright for 180 innings, Blake Snell's 2 for 2 on winning the Cy Young. I think Glasnow, if he ever gets there, is going to be in a similar boat. I remember when he came over, there was talk of like, this guy throws 100 innings tops, which we're going to talk Dustin May in a second, who's got an even worse health track record than Glasnow does. But I'll be curious. They're going to go with the 6-man rotation, a lot of extra days. The Dodgers went with the 6-man rotation part of last year, so it's not going to be totally new for Glasnow, but he had left elbow soreness that shut him down for the end of the season, missed the entirety of the postseason in the World Series. And so I think one of the biggest questions, Anthony, regarding Glasnow, and again, and Dustin May, who we'll talk about here in a second, is how do they keep these guys healthy? It's not even keep them healthy. How do they make sure they're just healthy for August, September, and October when this team is going to need them most?
Yeah. If they had that answer, they wouldn't need to have done a sort of autopsy at the end of the season in terms of, why their guys kept getting hurt. And that's the biggest question mark. It's why the depth matters. It's why they're going to slow play certain guys like Ohtani. It's why they went out and got Snell, why they were aggressive on that front, because they understand that like there is no such thing as too much starting pitching. And I know there have been some takes out there about they need to trade from that depth, yada, yada, yada. But no, they don't have to do that.
They don't have to do anything. It's true. But after last year, it gives you all the reason and all the motivation not to.
Totally. And, famous last words in any spring training, in any year for any team is surplus of starting pitching. Totally. Because that thing, it gets thin in a hurry. It just takes a couple of bad breaks here or there. And suddenly one of the guys who is still healthy isn't performing. And then you know what I mean? Like it's stuff
Totally.
like that. Like it doesn't have to be just the injuries. Like that depth is there for a lot of different reasons, not just injury. And so they're really fortunate to be in the position they're in where they have, up to maybe 8 arms come August that are legitimate starting pitching kind of guys. And of those 8, maybe like 6 of those guys capable of pitching in the top 3 in any other rotation in baseball.
Totally. Yeah. I look, do I think it's possible they get to the trade deadline and have quote unquote too much pitching and decide to make a move out of that? I think there's a world where that happens. But the idea that they would do anything prior to that moment and prior to having 12 other factors, right? I've come on this show and one of my bold predictions was, is it possible that Dustin May gets traded? Partially because he has no team control after this season. Now that take looks really dumb after Dustin May does what he does tonight against the Angels. I mentioned Glasnow, 5 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts. Dustin May, 5 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts tonight. Just 1 hit, 2 walks, a pair of hit batters later. But Dustin May, tonight, Anthony, I wrote down in my notes, it seems like he might kind of finally be putting it together because I know we've seen good, but the strikeout numbers have never been there. The swing and miss hasn't been there. Like if this guy puts all of the stuff together, all of it, the ceiling, it's like a number 1.5, 2-ish starting pitcher is in there in Dustin May if he can put it together and if he can just stay healthy.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think his ceiling is a number 1 kind of starter. I don't know if he's an ace, like we just talked about, what that means. That's a Snell. That's a potential.
10 of those guys in all of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, maybe if you stretch it a little bit. Yeah, but so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But a lot of other teams have number 1s, and he's got that kind of talent, that kind of potential. I think that is his ceiling. And so, like, part of the reason I think that I never bought, like, if the trade deadline comes around, maybe it could be May, is that because if he is dangled out there, it means that he's been bad or hurt or both, and you're not getting much for him anyway. Yeah. So,
or everybody else is healthy. I mean, that's the scenario in my head, is if the Dodgers have 5 or 6 other guys that they feel good about and maybe a couple other guys, Emmett Sheehan types, that they're like, they don't see a massive difference between.
Well, here's the other thing, though, is that, again, you're not getting much back for him for a couple of months of the regular season if you're the Dodgers. And they're not in a position where they need to trade a guy because he's going to become a free agent. They're not like the Marlins in that situation.
Yeah.
Who might be dealing guys because they don't want to lose him for nothing. Also, if he is healthy, and that is the kind of situation there, then in all likelihood, he's a contributor at that point, like a legitimate contributor. And so you don't deal that guy in that situation. I do think if they deal from I'm not saying that they would not, but if they do come to that place and they have a need, right now they don't have any needs. But if they had a need or they wanted to get richer and they dealt from that depth, I tend to think it would be more a guy along the lines of like Landon Knack, Emmett Sheehan, somebody like that, like even some of the guys who are hurt right now. Yeah. Maybe not a River Ryan. I think they may think the potential there is farther out. Yeah. But someone like that, I don't think it's necessarily a May or a Gonsolin, to put it that way, like a guy who can contribute right now, go in there and give you 6 shutout against some of the best lineups in baseball. Not that Nat couldn't do that, but I think there's more value. They would get more value to trade somebody like that who's still got some control versus a guy where he might make 10 starts for that other team.
Totally. Yeah. And I think to your point, and as I see some people in the chat, my guy La Jolla Poppy, I'm saying that just for the trolls, La Jolla Poppy, saying, maybe it's a 3-for-1 type deal and you go out and get a center fielder. Because I think that would be the question. Is that's probably where the hole is, second base or center field. You move Tommy Edman to the other place, but maybe it's moving some guys. And in that case, the team that's acquiring 3-for-1 for a stud probably doesn't want Dustin May with no team control left. So that would be, I think, the argument for why it might be, Bobby Miller or Emmett Sheehan type, more so than some others. Although I really like Emmett Sheehan, so I want to just scratch that from the record and say,
so do a lot of teams, and you're not getting something for nothing, especially when you're the Dodgers. There's a Dodger tax.
Yeah, totally. I also see some people in the chat wondering about the background. Not at my in-laws' house. I'm at my parents' house. So we're going to be back. We're going to be back in the normal one. I saw somebody suggesting, Anthony, that my wife finally won and got rid of the Dodgers only room. And fortunately for all of us, really, that has not happened yet. My wife likes the Dodgers. I'm not necessarily saying she loves having an entire room dedicated to it, but as long as they keep letting me do this show, I can justify it, you all. So keep watching, tell your friends, subscribe, hit the like button, because the second that this dream dies, Anthony, that room goes away. And I don't know what's going to happen. It's probably going to get painted pink with all the females that I live with 3 girls. But I appreciate everybody that's on here. And look at us, over 1,000 people in here live via Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Again, DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. Anthony, before we move on here, and folks, by the way, we're going to need some questions tonight. All right, we did a show 2 nights ago. The real baseball starts on Thursday, so we're limited on content here. So this is going to be a heavy mailbag questions show. So don't post them quite yet, but save them, because we're going to get to the last half hour probably of this show is just going to be taking your questions. But Anthony, anything else that has jumped out to you, from these last 2 spring training games, or spring training? I guess they're not technically spring training. The Freeway Exhibition Series, whatever they call this. The Dodgers lose last night. They win 4-1 tonight. Anything else in the box score kind of catch your attention? Will Smith had a home run tonight. Shout out to Will Smith. But anything else jump out at you?
Not so much. The things that really kind of made me do a double take are the things we talked about. It was the swing and miss stuff from May, and what felt like pinpoint command of his pitches from Glasnow. Like he was dotting the strike zone. And so to me, those were the things that jumped out, but those were, that's not, that jumped out to everybody. So that's not a hot take or anything like that. But yeah, again, this is jaded spring training Anthony saying like, even the Bodie stuff, which was a nice story, is just like, okay. Like every year.
Helped it out, by the way. That was that. I know we talked about this 2 days ago, whether he had the clause. He exercised the clause. So David Bodie is no longer a member of the Dodgers organization, for anybody who missed that storyline.
Yeah, I figured that would be the situation. I think we talked about that last time. Yeah, I mean, and there's no use in spilling tears over that kind of thing. Like as a former beat writer, like we were always praying that a guy like Bodie would do something big so that we could have something to write about.
Yeah.
And then, 98 times out of 100, the guys who do make a major league roster, by mid-May, people are going, what happened to the guy who was hitting in spring training? It's spring training. It's a very different beast than it is during the regular season. So, not too much that hopped out off the page to me. I'm ready to get this thing going. I haven't been this excited for a season since this time last year, but before that, it had been a little while too. So, yeah, man, I'm ready to defend this thing.
Looking up and down the box score, and I don't want to be a broken record. I just keep so badly wanting Andy Pages to pop off my screen. Like I just so badly want all the hype and expectation that he had as a hitting prospect prior to shoulder surgery. And then he kind of surges more quickly than anybody expected, makes it up to the major leagues, has flashes of offensive, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a dude. I just want so badly for him to take this position that they seem to be handing him. And he goes 0 for last night. He goes 0 for tonight. And I know it's exhibition, and I know all that stuff. So I'm not even saying he's definitely going to suck when this thing turns on for real. But he's a guy, I find myself, Anthony, drawn to the box score and just being like, please give me like an extra base hit. Give me a couple walks. Give me no strikeouts. Give me something. And yet it's a lot of zeros from Andy Pages. So again, I'm not overreacting to it negatively. It's more so like I was just hoping to have something positive to hold on to with Pages.
Sure. The positive thing I do take from him is that he has not looked like a complete catastrophe in center field this spring. And there were times last season, I mean, he hasn't looked great. Don't get me wrong. He's not winning any gold gloves or anything like that. But there were games last season where it was just like, he might as well have a blindfold on sometimes.
Yeah.
And so he has, I do buy the Dodgers, like optimism that, and their sort of excitement early on in spring that was like, yeah, this guy improved there. Like he worked hard on it. Like he has improved. I don't think there's any question about that. He is still like, in Japan, like there was a ball hit out there and it's like, dude, what are you doing? And, he caught it, but it was still like, he still has those moments. But definitely does not, you can see the improvement from where there was last year. And the bar, granted the bar was on the floor, but he's gotten better.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I'm with you on the defense. That was one thing we talked about coming out of Tokyo, is that he didn't look terrible, that's the bar, right? It's just be okay out there and believe that the bat is going to develop and continue to improve. Max Muncy, couple nice games the last couple nights, pair of hits tonight, I believe, pair of walks last night. It's a guy that we talked about 2 nights ago about, is he underrated? Is he underappreciated? We know what he's capable of. The question is, can he still get there? He's getting a little bit older year by year by year. The last 3 have been, okay to decent seasons, but not great seasons. So I was impressed by what I saw from the approach in Tokyo.
Yeah.
A couple more nice games again in the exhibition series. So Muncy's a guy to keep an eye on. And then again, Will Smith hits a 2-run home run tonight, which he's the best hitter in Major League Baseball right now, no matter where you look, because he's played 2 games and a lot of guys haven't. But keeping the hot streak going for Will Smith, the longer he can ride that wave, the better.
Yeah, I agree. And this wasn't a spring training thing, because, what jumped out at me was during the games in Japan. But, and we talked about this a little bit, so I'll be quick, but his approach looks so much better, Will Smith's, than it did at any point last season. He looks confident when he's able to take at bats like that. And so I'm hoping it translates into production. And typically when you kind of have that approach that he's shown to this point, that's kind of where it leads for a guy as talented as he is offensively. So I'm looking for a bounce back kind of season from him for sure.
I love it. We got a super chat here from Uncle Jam's Army. Why is the team going to a White House that tried to erase Jackie Robinson, guys? I appreciate you bringing this up, because this was the next topic that we were going to touch on. The Dodgers have accepted an invite to the White House. There was some debate over the last few days about whether or not they were going to accept or reject. For those unfamiliar, it is tradition across most major sports that when a team wins a championship, they are invited to the White House. Not everybody necessarily has to go. Just because you're a Dodger or you won the World Series doesn't mean you have to go, but you're at least invited. The Dodgers won in 2020. The next season, when they were in Washington, D.C., Joe Biden was the president, and the Dodgers went. Almost every single player that was on the World Series team and still active on the Dodgers that next year attended the White House. Now, with Donald Trump in office, there have been questions about how this would go. As has been mentioned, there was the Jackie Robinson fiasco that Jeff Passan became passionate about on social media, rightfully so, which has been rectified, I guess, in the end. Of course, how they got to it being rectified was kind of a disaster. But the question here is the Dodgers and how they will handle this whole White House thing. The Dodgers will be visiting Washington, D.C. on April 7th. That's when they have accepted an invitation. The Dodgers said, quote, in keeping with longstanding baseball tradition, they would be accepting this invite. We know of 2 people who have already addressed on the Dodgers side whether or not they will be attending this. The first is Dave Roberts. In 2019, he suggested that he would not be attending the White House so long as Donald Trump was in office. This time around, Anthony, he has announced that he will be attending. Quote, I respect the position. It's the highest office in our country, certainly the world, so I'm looking forward to it. Mookie Betts is the second person who it's come up with. He skipped the White House visit after winning the World Series with the Red Sox in 2018 while Donald Trump was president. He said he needs to discuss this with his family in order to make a decision. And again, for context, as I mentioned, in 2020, the Dodgers were invited by Joe Biden, and every single player except for one, I'm not going to out that person here, you can go and Google it. Every single person except for one chose to attend the invitation to the trip to the White House that time around. And so we're not trying to be political in saying that this is a thing that is happening. I know there are passionate feelings on both sides of this, Anthony, and there's some people that are going to suggest whether you attend or not attend is not a political statement, as Dave Roberts has suggested. Maybe you just respect the position of the president of the United States. Heck, maybe you just want to go to the White House. and yet others are going to make political decisions either to attend or not to attend. And so it's kind of a thorny situation the Dodgers are in, and it'll be interesting to see how the players, front office, etc., navigate this. In the couple of weeks before this happens, real quick on April 7th.
Yeah, didn't used to be a political thing. Obviously, for a lot of reasons that we don't need to get into, it's become that over the last 8-9 years or however long it's been. So I think the statement from the Dodgers has given them a little bit of cover, the in keeping with longstanding tradition.
Yeah.
That's sort of given them some blanket, some cover there to say, like, look, we're going because we won the World Series. It's not anything. It's not much more than that.
Yeah.
That's the best case scenario, is that
Right.
they just go, they take the picture, and they get out of there. But as these things go, sometimes stories will pop up that no one sees coming, that you didn't expect to be a story for whatever reason. And so you hope that it's an uneventful day for the people who do go. I think that the team is apt to just sort of follow in Dave's footsteps here for the people who do go. And if Mookie decides not to go, that's totally fine. I'm totally respect that. But for the people who do, I think, you know what, keep your head down. You follow your manager's lead because he's as professional and as classy as it gets. And so you just do what he does, and everyone should be fine.
Totally. Well, and I mean, even I remember in 2021, it was mentioned, hey, a lot of these guys, I think the stereotype, or maybe stereotype's the wrong word. The belief is that most Major League Baseball players probably lean more right than they do left. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But it's worth pointing out that, again, almost every single Dodger attended with a Democrat in the White House. And so I don't think that means that every single person that attended supported that particular president. Again, one person chose not to go, and knowing that person's politics, that was clearly a political decision that they were right to, they have the right to decide one way or another. But I'm with you. I hope this just happens. It's uneventful. It's something that, as you pointed out at the beginning, has happened for a long, long time. And it used to not be a statement on the person who's in power at the presidency. It used to be a celebration of the fact that they won the World Series. So that's kind of where I land the plane on this, is like, oh yeah, you know why we're talking about this, Anthony? Because the Dodgers won the World Series in 2024. And that's really, really awesome. And so what turns out like it is of minimal importance to me. I'm going to make nothing of who goes or who doesn't go, because I didn't make a big deal about who went or who didn't win 4 years ago. And so the Dodgers won the World Series. If this is one more excuse to mention that, and for it to be in the headlines that the Dodgers are being celebrated as World Series champions, then we can just leave it at that. And so not everyone's going to be satisfied, but I think that's the right place, at least for now, to kind of land the plane on this particular conversation and the decision that the Dodgers have made. So again, the Dodgers have accepted an invitation to the White House. It'll happen on April 7th when they'll be playing in Washington, D.C., quote, in keeping with longstanding baseball tradition. All right, let's get to some questions, folks. We're going to move away from all conversations about the White House, and let's get back to baseball or food or cheese or something in those veins, because we're 2 days away from opening day. We did mention it briefly, and I think it's worth unpacking. David Bodie was a guy who had a really good spring for the Dodgers. There was some speculation of, is this a guy that maybe makes the major league roster at some point? He has opted out of his contract with the Dodgers because he did not make the opening day roster. The only surprise to me, a small surprise, was that he had this clause in his contract. And I don't know, maybe if you played a certain amount of time, you automatically get this in your contract. I don't think that's the case, but maybe it is. Were you surprised at how the David Bodie situation played out at all?
Not at all. I stopped short of just flat out calling it, I think, on Sunday. But I hinted that this may be a thing that happens, because I didn't know if that was a part of his deal or not. Typically, a veteran guy will have that kind of deal because it comes into play if the guy has a really good spring training. That's the only reason it comes into play for the most part. Because if he was bad, and they just didn't waive him and they kept him and they said, you're going to go to OKC, he probably takes that paycheck and says, yeah, I'll try to work my way out of there and see if I can get a job either with the Dodgers or with somebody else at some point during the season. That clause is in there because if you perform during spring training and you don't make the club, someone else might have taken notice.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what that's for. So typically a veteran guy, it's not surprising that was in there for him. And like I said, good for him to get that and to be good enough during spring to exercise that and feel good about it, I assume. Good on the Dodgers for doing it for him. Like the guy performed. You don't really have any need for him. I'll say that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you can find a better gig somewhere, then more power to you. Yeah, hopefully, he plays well this year. Like, I don't think, David Bodie was not going to be the guy who makes or breaks the Dodgers World Series run.
Yeah.
Neither is Chris Taylor.
Yeah.
So let's just stop. Chris Taylor's going to be on the team for now. Deal with it. And David Bodie's not. And I don't think either one of those decisions means the Dodgers are less likely to win a World Series than they were a month ago, or if those two guys flip-flopped, whatever.
Totally. All right, let's get to some questions. Dong says, will you be watching the Apple TV World Series documentary this weekend? Any opinions before viewing it? It goes live Friday, which I believe is 9 p.m. Thursday, technically. If you haven't heard of it, it's called Fight for Glory, 2024 World Series. It's a 3-part hour. Each episode is an hour long, and it's a docuseries specifically about the 2024 World Series, which, in case you didn't know, was one that the Dodgers won. So as Daniel has pointed out, why they are releasing this as real baseball starts when they could have released this a week before real baseball starts, it's beyond me, but they are releasing it Friday morning, Thursday night. Will you be watching, Anthony, and any opinions before viewing it?
Of course I'll be watching. Had they lost this series, I would hate this idea of the documentary coming out. But yeah, of course I'll be watching it. I'm very excited for it, actually. I had mentioned a while back over the winter that I had watched the Fox cut of sort of like, I think it's called like Road to Glory or something like that. Whatever. It's like a half-hour show, and basically all it is just like highlights of every series from the start of the playoffs through the World Series. And it's like it gave me the goosebumps. And so I suspect this will do the same thing. Yeah, I mean, the timing could have been a ton better than the weekend of your home opener or whatever. But there's no game Sunday. I'll watch it Sunday before we hop on the show. And yeah, I'm excited for it. What is it? Is it like 3 episodes?
3 episodes, an hour long each. I will say 2 things. One is we have an interview with the director of this series that we'll be posting whenever Apple TV tells us we're allowed to post that interview, because there's all sorts of rules about when promotion is allowed to happen, reviews, et cetera, et cetera. As part of the preparation for said interview, may or may not have gotten an opportunity to watch the 3 episodes already. And I think people are going to enjoy it. Let's just say that. I think Dodgers fans will enjoy it more than Yankees fans will. There's some pretty incredible access they got. The Freeman family and the Betts family both gave them access. So they were following the Freeman family prior to game 1, and then game 1 happened. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's 3 hours of reliving a great week and a half of all of our lives. And so again, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Apple TV Plus. I see some people saying they don't have it. I'm sure you can get like a free week trial or something like that and crush 3 hours worth of Dodgers content. You'll not regret it. You'll not regret it. The director made a point of saying, hey, they used to always do these World Series films. And so this was the first year that they were kind of like, hey, what if we take this up a notch and make it a big thing? So coincidentally, unfortunately for us, the Dodgers won. As you said, Anthony, if the Dodgers had lost, you couldn't pay me to watch this docuseries, but the Dodgers won. So instead, I'll watch it multiple times and had a good time interviewing the director.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited for it. When they first announced that it was happening, I was stoked. So yeah, any of this Dodger content I can get from 2024, I'm full in on.
Yeah. GI says, I think Amazon Prime members can sign up for a free week trial of Apple TV right now. So there you go. If you have Amazon Prime and want to go for it. But yes, stay tuned for that interview. There was confusing language about when we were allowed to post the interview, and because there's 2 categories of things. One you're allowed to do now, and then the other you're not. We weren't sure which this interview fit into. So it's good stuff. I wish I had more time with him. That's the one preface I'll say. They were on a very strict schedule. You've got this much time. I had like 6 more questions written down, but I think you'll enjoy the interview, and I think you'll enjoy the show as well. Okay, we got a bunch of questions. Let's get through this. Back to Back says, who is your ideal center field trade candidate should the Dodgers pursue Luis Robert? I have admittedly not done a ton of digging into center field options, guys who may or may not be available, etc. Robert has never been a guy that I've been super high on as a combination of cost, consistency, health, all those things. So honestly, if it were me, Anthony, I'd probably go try and find a guy I like at second base, knowing that Tommy Edman can play center field for me, because second base is probably a little bit cheaper place to find somebody that you feel decent about. But do you have thoughts on Luis Robert or any other center field guys?
Yeah, I mean, Robert is the obvious choice here. That's the obvious answer, because just in terms of like realistic options, there's just not a lot that's appealing. But I have the same for the same reasons that you've sort of taken pause with this. I've never been high on like aggressively pursuing this option. And I agree. I also agree that second base might be an easier place to go look. But even that is just like, like there's nobody there either that really that would get me excited. I don't think. Like, you know, they had a upside guy and they traded him. You know, so if they were going to go that route, you know, then why make the Lux move? And if you're looking for somebody who's kind of proven, like, who is that guy who's available? Mm-hmm. So like, there's just it's a lot of vanilla for me right now. So to answer the question, Robert is the name, but like beyond that, no one really does it for me.
Yeah, fair. Richard, with the super chat. Richard, we appreciate you. We appreciate the super chats. These help this show stay on the air, so we appreciate that. He says, in 2016, ESPN rubbed the Cubs documentary in our faces all off season. So yes, put it on a loop and run it 24/7. Good riddance to Sunday Night Baseball. There you go. Good riddance to Sunday Night Baseball. I have one thing I found when I watched this docuseries, if hypothetically I had gotten a chance to watch it, was how terrible my memory is about like pretty much anything that happened in the World Series. Like, it was like, obviously I remember much of Game 5 and how Game 1 ended, kind of everything in between. Like, I'm the idiot that it's like they clicked a button on my mind and watched it, and I'm like, oh man, I wonder what happens here. Like, I wonder if we get this guy out. It's like I knew which games we won and which games we lost. I didn't remember how necessarily. And so I do not remember ESPN rubbing this in our faces in 2016. But Richard, I believe you entirely. Do you remember, like, Anthony, if I ask you about like Game 2 of the World Series last year, can you give me like a 30-second summary of like kind of how that game played out? Like, who scored first, who pitched for the Dodgers, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I can give you the high level notes of that. Yeah, like Yamamoto, one hitter, you know, the one hit was a homer to the New York Met guy now, Soto. Yeah, you know, Ice Cube. I think that was Ice Cube's game.
Yeah, sounds right. Yeah. There you go. Look, you're already better than me. I was like, oh, Yamamoto pitched. Like, oh, he was awesome this game. That's cool. You know? So anyways, yeah, there you go. Richard, more power to you. Okay, some more questions here. Okay. Ethan, following up from earlier trade talk, is Dustin May getting a rotation spot over any of Kershaw, Ohtani, Snell, Yamamoto, or Roki if all are healthy, or would he have to become a reliever at that point? So Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani, Glasnow, for sure are ahead of Dustin May. The only reason I hesitate to put Roki Sasaki on there is because Roki Sasaki technically can be optioned, and not that I think he will be, but I also think he's going to be on a massive innings limit. So I don't know if they're going to get there. I mean, the point here, Anthony, is, and again, Glasnow is off of this list, but Kershaw, Ohtani, Snell, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Roki, and Dustin May. There's a world where this is a headache. a good headache for sure. But
Sure.
if all these guys are available and ready to pitch, that's more people than can fit in a major league rotation.
Sure. And then you have to think about roster construction. I think, look, in a 27 or 28 man roster, I don't think they have any problem throwing all those guys out there.
Correct.
And figuring out the math, as they sort of move along. But because it's a 26 man roster construction comes into play.
And they're lucky, by the way, I'll note, because Ohtani kind of doesn't count as it. They basically get 14 pitchers when Ohtani's healthy, which is an advantage that they get.
Right. The huge assumption of health here with all of this, but which is why we had that depth conversation earlier. But assuming every single guy is healthy and ready to take the ball, then you end up with that kind of first world sort of headache that you mentioned. I think the situation probably, I'm with you. If Sasaki is pitching well, I don't think they option. I don't think this guy spends a day in the minors for the rest of his career, probably, unless he's on like a rehab assignment.
Yeah, I agree. I don't necessarily think he's going to make every single start at the major league level, but I think he's going to be pitching or he's going to be on the injured list, basically.
Yeah. I agree. So again, that roster construction comes into play, and you have to sort of figure out how that goes. But I don't have any doubt that they could fit all of these guys into the rotation. Look, they'll never call it a 6-man rotation. I guess they kind of
finally are. Last season they denied it.
This year they are. Yeah, last year they denied it. The year before that they denied it. But I think this is the third season where they've essentially run a 6-man kind of rotation for the entire season. I think a guy did not take a turn on what we would call regular rest until like Jack Flaherty did later in the season. But everybody else was at least on 5 days of rest. Yeah. So I think they can figure that problem out. This is one that I'm sure they've already it's probably already figured out.
Yeah.
Like they probably already have this charted. If we're being realistic, injuries sort of, they help you figure this stuff out.
Yeah. And I mean, I wonder, like, Ohtani kind of got shut down from pitching for a little while. Dave Roberts has announced in the last couple of days he's picked back up his pitching. But part of me wonders if it wasn't so much a setback, because by all accounts, it hasn't been a setback, as much as maybe the Dodgers saying, like, hey, we can just kick this can down the road another month. Like, we don't need you in May. Like, if it's June or July 1st, that could be an option. TQT asks a similar question and kind of asks, who's the guy that ends up throwing out of the bullpen? I can't imagine it'll be Clayton Kershaw coming out of the bullpen. I think this is where a Dustin May type becomes the easiest guy to shift into that. I saw somebody in the chat say maybe it's Kershaw and Dustin May are a piggyback situation where you see if Clayton Kershaw can get you 4 innings and Dustin May can get you 4 innings, and maybe every 6 days you just kind of tell your bullpen to catch their breath and enjoy the night off. I mean, like, that sounds crazy, but I could see a world where they're going to have to get creative because, again, Sasaki is the only one in this entire conversation who can be optioned, and neither of us think he will be. And when you get to the bullpen, they got a lot of guys that can't be optioned. So it's so easy to say someone's going to be hurt, and that's probably the right answer here. But there is a world, which is why we're having the conversation. There is a world where they have more than 14 pitchers who are all healthy and none of whom can be sent down to the minor leagues. Like that is possible with the way the Dodgers have a 40-man constructed.
This was my sort of, we talked about bold predictions. This would have been mine. It's something I've mentioned before, that there was once upon a time that all your pitchers throwing on 5 days rest was just an abomination to baseball tradition.
Yeah.
There was once upon a time where throwing a bullpen game, not just in the postseason, but like throwing multiple bullpen games during the regular season was unheard of.
Yeah.
And just, and scoffed at and blasted. And the Dodgers have innovated on a lot of those things. The Rays have also when Friedman was there. And so it would not stun me at all if they took the spring training tradition of piggybacking starters and brought it to the regular season. And as you said, Jeff, they have there's a lot of veteran guys in that bullpen, a lot of veteran guys with some miles on those arms. and guys who are coming off of injury.
Yeah.
Now, if you could say, you know what, every X day, the bullpen is essentially, we hope, going to get a breather. And we'll be able to reset everybody who's in there by carrying an extra starter. Maybe it's Gonsolin, maybe it's May, whoever that might be, and go, okay, Kershaw, go give us what you can.
Yeah.
And then that other guy is going to come and piggyback you. Or, looking at Ohtani, looking at guys who are probably going to be limited in terms of innings. Ohtani, go give us 5, and then May comes in and gives you the rest of the way. Like stuff like that. It would not stun me at all if that were the situation. Because they're in a situation where they have to think creatively.
Yeah, totally. And again, there's a world where 3 guys are hurt and having 8 guys that can't be optioned doesn't become an issue.
Totally.
And that has been historically the case. So we'll see. Dodgers Hub says, no one is talking about this, but if Pages and Outman both struggle in center to start the year, could we see Ha-Seong Kim in center at some point this season? What do you think, Anthony?
It's possible. Yes, it's possible. It's doubtful for me because the struggles we're talking about here are all offensive.
Yeah.
Like Outman's not going to struggle defensively. Right. And they're not going to remove Pages if he's hitting at a acceptable level and he's just not a great defender. He's going to be out there. So they would have to both absolutely just tank offensively for Kim to be like, okay, is this the guy that we go with as our everyday center fielder? And chances are he's not going to be that productive offensively either, right? Like, so, it's possible. I don't think it's realistic at the moment, though.
Yeah, I think doubtful is the right word. I just think Ha-Seong Kim, like comparing him to Outman, who's not going to be the opening day starting center fielder by all accounts. Outman is a better defensive player than Ha-Seong Kim will be at any points in center field this year. Like, that's not debatable. And as bad as Outman has been offensively this spring, he was way better than Ha-Seong Kim was. So, like, unless Ha-Seong Kim miraculously develops offensively at a pace that we've talked about on this show would be unique, I just don't see it happening. Because I think Outman will always be a better defensive option and Pages will always be a better offensive option. So unless both those guys get hurt, which is not the scenario we're talking about here, I would be skeptical. So that's
and if this were sort of the scenario, kind of the more obvious option would be Kim comes up and plays second base and Edman moves to center field.
Totally. Because that's a position he's far more comfortable defensively. David, same lines. Any concerns about the outfield defense, Anthony?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Defense in general is going to be the weak spot of this roster. I don't think it's going to be terrible. Let me put that. I think they'll be okay. I don't think they'll be great. And I think the weakest part of that, the infield has the potential actually to be pretty solid, I think.
Yeah. Gold Glove nominee Mookie Betts, according to some. So, you pencil him in as a Gold Glove nominee. It all comes together, Anthony.
There you go. But look, you have 2 non-defensive minded corner outfielders. And typically when you construct that outfield, you want somebody in center field who can go get it.
Yeah.
That's an Outman kind of thing. But if he can't hit, then he's not an option. Like that's what it is. Like you saw how much Kevin Kiermaier played last year.
Yeah.
Like just not an option if you can't not hit. And so, you get Pages, who he's improved, like we said, but he's an adventure out there, and he's not necessarily a see ball, go track ball, go get ball kind of center fielder either. Like he, even in a corner, is similar to what Conforto and Teo are. So that outfield, defensive construction, it concerns me a bit. I just think they probably play everybody deep and say, no doubles when you can. And you hope that Mookie and Edman can go get anything that's shallow.
Yeah. Look, everybody knows where I stand on Outman. It always cracks me up. I'm seeing in the chat, Outman sucks. He can't hit. He had a 106 weighted runs created plus this spring. So, I know what the strikeout rate was, and strikeout rate goes into it, but he had an OPS over 800. So he's got that going for him. But we'll move on. Nobody likes to hear me talk about James Outman. Cordenas, which minor league players do you think make their major league debut this year? Dalton Rushing feels like a safe bet, only because he's so close and he's ready.
Yeah.
He would probably be the safest. On the pitching side, I'm not really sure. I mean, there's always guys that come out of nowhere. Jackson Ferris would have to leap a bunch of guys. Nick Frasso, Jack Dreyer. Jack Dreyer has already made his major league debut, so we've got
Yeah.
one in the
Yeah.
books.
From the pitching standpoint, I don't see anybody making that leap. The guys who made the leap last year and then got hurt. So they're dealing with all that. I think offensively, rushing is sort of the only guy I would think that the only guy that we know that is probably ready right now.
Yeah, Haesung Kim, some people mentioning him if you think he gets called up at some point. Obviously,
and you consider him that. Yeah, I think actually probably Kim is ahead of rushing in terms of those guys who make their debut this year. Yeah, because I think at some point we definitely see Kim. I can't say that for sure about rushing yet.
Interesting. Yeah, I think I would have rushing ahead. And then again, on the pitching side, we've already seen Sasaki and Dreyer, so I missed that. So we've got two guys who have already made major league debuts this year.
I don't really count Sasaki. I kind of don't count Kim either. I don't. That's just kind of as the vision appears to me when I read the question.
Fair. On the pitching side, like again, Nick Frasso would be an interesting one if he becomes like a reliever only type guy. He's can be pretty nasty. So he's a name just to keep an eye on, maybe. Good question. Let's get to a few more. Eden asks, a good eye can't be worn down by catching. Do you think Will Smith has an elite on-base percentage? We talked about this last year. His on-base percentage was down quite a bit, like 40 or 50 points last season, which to her point, Eden's point is that's an interesting kind of it's interesting because you don't wear down. Physically, he might be wearing down, but mentally, the ability to get on base, draw walks, not necessarily wearing down. So that's tricky.
Yeah, I mentioned on the last two shows, tonight included, that I really have noticed the difference in his approach.
Yeah.
He's kind of seems like he went to the Max Muncy school over the winter and sort of is taking at bats that way. I like it. And elite OBP, I don't know. It depends on just sort of what the rest of the offense looks like. But I think that he can be the kind of guy where even if he's struggling a little bit, he's kind of in a funk offensively for a while, he's still a guy who can go, he goes 0 for 4 with a walk or something like that. 0 for 3 with 2 walks. I think he can be capable of doing something like that. Yeah. So I think it maybe it doesn't bring him all the way back to what we expect. I expect him to have a bounce back year. I've already said that, but it raises the floor for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just trying to pull up his numbers from the last couple of years. I mean, he had been basically for his career. Will Smith is a 350 on base percentage guy. He was 327 last year. So, but that was down 32 points from 2023. So, I mean, if he can get back up to the 360 range, which is where he was in 2020, 2021, and 2023, then I think, we're cooking with gas with Will Smith. Yeah. Hawaiian Kira, what's going on with Bobby Miller? I think I missed discussions on him. There's not really anything going on. Obviously, took a liner off the head, missed some time, came back. I think it's just he struggled last year, hasn't necessarily put it all together in a way from what we've seen this spring that makes you believe that he's back. And the second thing is, I think I said A and 2, so maybe it's A and B or 1 and 2, however you want to interpret that. He's just got like 8 guys ahead of him. We just talked about all the depth. Landon Knack is probably ahead of him, who's a name that we didn't mention, depending on what they do with, I think he's in the same bucket as like Justin Robleski. Kasperius, I'm still interested to see how they kind of navigate him as an elite relief pitcher, which he kind of is, and wanting him to develop as a starter at the same time. So I think Robleski, Kasperius, Bobby Miller are all in the same bucket of, flavor of the week and who's riding the hot hand for the Dodgers to some degree.
Yeah, it's the numbers game for him. Yes, he wasn't great last year, but given his potential and his upside, there are 25 25, 26, 27 other rotations that would take him at the back end right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dodgers Hub. Do you think Luis Rengifo could be an option at second? He has a 300 batting average with a 117 weighted runs created plus in 78 games last year. Move Edman back to center. It's worth pointing out the Dodgers tried trading for Luis Rengifo a while ago. If you remember that failed trade, I believe that involved Jock Peterson, Ross Stripling. Rengifo was the guy reportedly that the Dodgers wanted. That trade fell apart. Rengifo was kind of a mess for a couple of years. It looked like they dodged a bullet, but Rengifo, and I always forget who the other guy is that was in the trade. I can't remember if it was Taylor Ward or if it was somebody else, but whoever it was ended up being a decent player. So do the Dodgers go back to the well with the guy in Rengifo who apparently they like, Anthony?
I don't know anything about his contract situation or anything like that to say. But I mean, things would have to go really bad in center field for them to, like, I think, look at external options like that. Because it's going to cost them.
Yeah.
It really is. It's going to cost them. Even the small trades for the Dodgers, because of what they are, because of what they've done, teams are good. They're going to pay a tax in trades. They are. And so, and because they have a wealth of prospects. They're one of the top farm systems in baseball. So like I said, I think things would have to be a disaster in center field offensively for them to be like, okay, we are willing to give up some of this capital now to go out and make a move that makes us marginally better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see some more questions. I see the super chat. We're trying to stay away from being super political. Some people might argue we've already done that, but we appreciate Idle Rose. We appreciate the super chat, but we're not going to throw that one up on the screen. Speaking of political, NS wants to know, Jeff, whose cooking is better, your wife or your mom's? I'm going to say mom. Shout out to my wife. Love my wife, but mom's a great cook. Anthony, you want to answer this one? They didn't ask it to you, so I won't force you to answer this if you don't want to.
Yeah. I don't mind answering this one. My wife cooks like 3 things that are excellent and like some of my favorite things. I do a lot of the cooking. I have an outdoor kitchen with a smoker and a flat top and all that stuff. I like it. I like doing that. So I handle more of that in our house. My mom and my mother-in-law are fantastic cooks.
Okay. Wow. Throwing the mother-in-law in the mix there too. If you would have said mother-in-law first out of those 3, I think that's like literally a death sentence. We do have some more quotes from Mookie Betts, by the way. I mentioned the Fabian Ardaya piece. Here were some of the quotes that Mookie gave us post-game for those that have missed these. He was asked about if he's in the process of gaining strength. He said, quote, "I'm actually stronger than I was before. My body has been perfectly fine. It's only been my stomach, literally only my stomach. I've been working out, doing everything perfectly normal. It was just hard to hold food down." So that was the quote I mentioned. Here's a couple more that were not included in Fabian's piece. "You didn't sound optimistic on Sunday. What changed in 24 hours? Quote, I just figured out what it was, figured out what I needed to stay away from, and turned the corner." Then he was asked, "What did you have to stop eating?" Quote, "I'll keep that in-house." So that's what we got, Anthony, from Mookie Betts. He's stronger than he was before, and he doesn't want to tell us which food apparently it was that was messing him up.
Two takes on this.
Do it.
I'm glad that it's out there now, and he found out, and he's clearly feeling better about it. That's a huge step for somebody who's dealing with health issues. Number one, the fact that he would not say what it is that he has now staying away from that's making him feel better is really interesting, and obviously makes me want to know what that is badly.
Yeah. He's like, they told me I wasn't allowed to eat Nerds clusters for breakfast every single day anymore. And it's amazing what happened when I stopped.
Yeah. I mean, the guy's literally throwing up everything he's putting down. And then he's like, oh, I stopped eating this one thing or this one, whatever, this one food group. I don't know what he's talking about, and then all of a sudden it went away. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy.
So now I desperately want to know what that is. And then the second thing is a little more serious. There's no way he's stronger than he was when this started.
Lean muscle, baby. Lean muscle.
I mean, I'm sure he might look shredded now, right? Like, because he's lost so much weight. But like, there's no way he's stronger. I mean, come on.
Yeah. The admin wants to know, what do we think Mookie was eating? Wrong answers only.
He
Stuff.
was following Blake around for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. He was eating at the Tokyo
Taco
Taco
Bell.
Bells. As people pointed out, we know he was sick before that. Yeah, I mean, man, like what was like a part of me, even as we talk about this question, like I'm married to somebody who has pretty severe food allergies. Like, is it possible he randomly developed a food allergy and there's now something like, oh, I'm not allowed to have gluten. Like I'm allergic to gluten, and
Would
I
that
didn't
make
know
you
I was.
would that make you throw up, like, everything that you ate, though?
I mean, if he was just continuously eating gluten, like the reason I don't believe that is because I think he'd feel terrible. Like I don't think it'd just be like I can't keep food down. I think it would be like I'm a wreck. You know, my wife seems to be a wreck whenever she eats something like that. So that's one thing. Hawaiian Kara wins. He was eating at Tony Roma's. He needed to stop eating at Tony Roma's.
Kara,
So
I
there you go.
made the exact same joke in our group chat the other day.
I love it. I love it. RJM wants to know, Anthony, didn't Mookie go vegan?
That is a rumor that is out there, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so maybe he meat was the culprit. Maybe he got back on that red meat train and that didn't go went the wrong way. Let's see. Weed. Maybe he was just smoking a ton of weed and stopped and that fixed everything. Who knows? Corn
Well,
on the cob.
I think it would be the other way around. Maybe he tried to stop.
Yeah.
It was not working out for him, and so he got back on the train. He talked about over the winter that he does partake.
Okay. I didn't know that. There you
Yeah,
go.
I think it was on the All the Smoke podcast with Stephen Jack and Matt Barnes.
Okay. There you go. MP said he yeah, there you go. Maybe it's interesting. Dodger Blue says greater than Tony Romas. Do you agree with this, Anthony?
I haven't seen a physical Tony Roma's in like 20 years.
My hometown growing up had one. Classic.
And I honestly can't remember the last time I had food at Chili's.
Oh,
So I'll go with the admin here.
you just go to Chili's for drinks?
Sure, like happy hours, things like that. Yeah, like, meet a couple friends, maybe go watch a game. Or there's like one around where I live.
Yeah, there's no Chili's anywhere near me. Friggin' love Chili's. I like Tony Roma's too. I wouldn't eat there in Tokyo if I was there, but I think both those places are great. But I'd agree. I
Tony
like
Roma's
Chili's.
a place for ribs, right?
What's that?
Tony Roma's a place for ribs. That's
Yeah,
the
well,
thing.
and what's hilarious is Chili's famously had the commercial with the baby back
Baby back.
ribs,
Yeah.
barbecue sauce commercial. So
They got
there you go.
beef, literally.
Maybe it's just if you're going for ribs, Tony Roma's. If you're going for, I forget what they call their chicken tenders at Chicken Crispers. Maybe that's what they're calling. They had back in the day some elite chicken tenders. Just give me the appetizer sampler at a place like Chili's, some spinach and artichoke dip. Just sign me up for all that.
Yeah, that's cool. They got that's fine bar food.
Aaron says, I liked Sizzler. Is Sizzler still around? Sizzler was a classic. That was grandma and grandpa are in town. Hey, we're taking you to the Sizzler buffet. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 child experience for me, Anthony.
I still remember those Sizzler cups. They had like the diamond sort of pattern that that came out like a 3D thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. You hit the Sizzler buffet though?
I can't say that I did. I think I was like a Sizzler steak guy.
Oh, wow.
When I was a kid.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Excuse me. This is steak over here. Going to Sizzler, getting his New York strip steak. Excuse me.
Yeah. Hey, that $9.99 steak, that hits.
There you go. We had a great question last show, and we'll end with this. Thank you to everybody joining us live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, almost 1,500 people on a Tuesday night. We appreciate you. Ian says the B on Jeff's hat stands for Bueller, FYI. Freaking love Walker Bueller. You may have noticed that Walker Bueller made it into our intro video, and that was a non-negotiable as far as I was concerned. The Are You Not Entertained had to be part of it. Shout out to Jason, who was in here. Again, he sent me this. We were talking Jackie Robinson earlier. Shout out to Jackie Robinson, the hat. The question was, what's the one food item place that you wish would come back to Dodger Stadium? So it's not in Dodger Stadium currently, but maybe you remember it from 20 years ago, 5 years ago, but a food item or place that you associate with Dodger Stadium. Do you have a particular anything? Because what's interesting is, and I forget who asked this question, but whoever asked it said the right answer immediately as far as I was concerned. It's Carl's Jr. That was my go-to as a kid. It was just go get me a Western bacon cheeseburger and the fries that definitely weren't Carl's Jr. fries, but they were fries. And I was good. I was a happy camper. So Carl's Jr. is what I would bring back. And Admin agrees with me.
There
So
you go.
you got any feedback? Wetzel's pretzels, they had those. I think they still do pretzels. I don't think it's Wetzel's anymore, but man, the Wetzel's pretzels were just absolutely saturated in butter and delicious. So that would be my second one.
Wetzel's pretzels are legit. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a good answer for this. Like, if we went to a Dodger game as a kid or, growing up, like, we got Dodger dogs.
Yeah, well, that's some people are saying just bring back the original Dodger dog. Can we go back to there? So,
because that's something I couldn't get outside the stadium. Like, I could get Carl's Jr. or whatever, on any day that I wasn't going to a game.
Yeah. Fair enough. So, all right, everybody, that'll do it for us tonight on a Tuesday night. We will be back on Thursday night. What's that?
Good questions tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, David. No, it wasn't David. Somebody else was not happy with your Swiss cheese is the best cheese answer the other night. I know
they
that
gave it to us
Kevin.
They were giving it to me on Twitter.
That was not a popular take, but hey, Swiss is not my favorite. It's not anything I'm ever like ordering on purpose. Maybe a mushroom and Swiss burger would be the one. But
the Swiss mention was that I'll get it on sandwiches. Like, I'll do a turkey bacon Swiss melted, toasted or whatever. Like, that was kind of what I was getting at there. It's not like this person acted like I said it was the only cheese that was worth consuming. It's not.
It's true. And meanwhile, David's sending us pictures of like $700 half wheels of cheese, I think, and asking us why we haven't tried it before. So
yeah, Sabatini, send that our way, man.
Yeah, seriously, I'll get you a PO box. You can send a half wheel of that stuff too. That looks like it's out of my price range. So, all right, we'll be back Thursday night. In case you haven't heard, there's a baseball game happening. 4:00. We'll be doing a live post game show right here. So be sure to join us for that. And then Anthony and I will be back on again Sunday night. So we'll be doing Sundays, Tuesdays, me and Anthony. Thursdays will be me and either Matt or Blake, probably a rotating cast there as well. So we appreciate everybody for joining us. Again, that is Anthony Witrado. I am Jeff Spiegel. Check out DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 on social media. If you're new, subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you're a podcast person, Apple, Spotify, Google, find the DodgerHeads podcast, subscribe, rate, and review. We would greatly appreciate it. Folks, enjoy the rest of your night. As always, go Dodgers. And yes, still champs.